Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, when I was a little kid, I screamed at my parents for 3 days to buy me a pony. I got a little hoarse. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Dutch Resistance, Orange Shall Overcome from Liberation Game Design.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In Dutch Resistance, Orange Shall Overcome from Liberation Game Design, 1 to 5 players take on the roles of various Dutch resistors during World War II as they attempt to thwart the machinations of the evil Nazis. Now, the game comes with several different scenarios, and they have different missions and different challenges that you will have to overcome. But essentially, you're going to go ahead and set up the game board, and on the game board, you're going to have different locations. Now, depending on the scenario, the locations will change. You've got city locations and country locations, and you're going to place these places like, a bank or the forger or the informant. You're going to place these things all over the board, and you're going to put inside of them a black cube that represents the safety value of that specific location. You're also going to place on the board between these locations along the roads either French police officers or German soldiers. You're going to have several decks of cards, including the halt deck, the occupier deck, the patrol deck, and the raid deck. You'll also have train tickets, you will have Ausweis, papers cards, and you will also have helper cards. Now, the game board will also have off to the right a morale track, essentially saying what the resistor's morale level is. And next to that, you will have these kind of extra activation cards. Now, depending on where the morale is, these cards will be face up, and then you can flip them over to take extra actions on your turn. Now, each player is going to get their own player board, which will have spaces for items at the bottom, and it will also have kind of an alibi track up above, which represents kind of how safe you are from the clutches of the Gestapo. You will also have your own unique player card. As I understand it, these were actually based on actual Dutch people, members of the resistance, and you will get kind of their player card, which will have their own unique abilities. But critically, you will also gain 3 special cards that are unique to that character that will be kind of your action cards during the game. Now, as I say, there are different scenarios, so the game will play out differently depending on which scenario you're playing. But there are some key things that are always the same in the game. Now, when you take your turn, essentially you have your 3 action cards. Now, these action cards usually tell you can do an action or you can do some other ability. Sometimes you can do both. Sometimes you have to be in a certain location to do that special ability. But every time you take an action, you have to play one of those cards or you have to flip one of those extra action tiles on the side of the board. Now, the very first phase of every round is the start phase. Now, during the start phase, you're going to collect your 3 player action cards, and you're going to take an occupier card. This is some evil thing that will happen to you during the game, but you have to play through your cards first, and you can't share the information about your occupier card with the other players, but you can look at it yourself. Also, at this time, you're going to look at the morale track, and if there are any expended action tiles that are next to the morale marker, you can flip those up, and the ones beneath it, you can flip those up as well. Now, during the action phase, as I say, you're playing the cards to take your actions. You have several different kinds of actions. First of all, you can move up to 2 spaces. Now, as you move, you can take one item from space to space, and you can also take one person who is in hiding from space to another space. If you have a train ticket, you can spend that train ticket to go anywhere on the board. However, you must flip over the train ticket, and there may be some negative effects that you have to resolve. Each location has a certain action associated with it. For instance, there are a number of kinds of items you'll be using throughout the game. You can go ahead and actually spend an action and whatever requirements to use that space in order to get the specific items or actions that come with that space. As I say, some of your cards will have special abilities on them. You can use those as well. On any given location, you can roll your dice, and depending on what the number is, you can raise the safety level of that location that number. You can go ahead and gain an information token anywhere on the board, but at the cost of lowering the safety level of the location you're on. You can also take a scenario action. The various scenarios have specific actions that will allow you to complete those scenarios. You can take one of those actions too. Now, if you are ever on the same space as another player, you can exchange items, and this does not cost you an action point. Now, one thing too, as you are moving from location to location, if ever you move through a German soldier or a police officer, you have to draw a halt card. These are the patrols. They're trying to inspect your papers as you go through. So you can go ahead and you can draw that. Now, I believe if you have a papers card, I think you can spend that just to go through without doing a halt card. But these halt cards will give you decisions. So whoever you're playing it with has to read the card to you so you don't see what the potential consequences of your actions are. But essentially, they read you a little story about approaching this checkpoint, and there will be some kind of a choice. You can choose A or you can choose B. And a lot of times, these are both just kind of the best of bad decisions. So you go ahead and you answer what you would do at that location, and then your companion who's reading the card, they will tell you exactly what the consequences of that are. Sometimes they'll be really bad, sometimes not so bad, sometimes good, but you don't know exactly what's going to happen when you get to those halt cards. Once you played all your cards, you play your occupation card, your occupier card. You play that, and that is a card that, again, is going to have negative implications for you. It may lower the safety of your location. It may lower morale. It may force you to choose between some bad alternatives there. So there's a lot of negative things that can happen when that occupier card comes out. Once all players have gone, you go to the danger phase. Now, during the danger phase, essentially, you're going to look at where your alibi token is on your player board, as well as how many items you have. And it's going to tell you how much combined to lower those safety levels at your location. Now, next, you'll have to resolve the top patrol card. Now, the patrol card tells you, as soon as you see the top of it, which color is going to activate. Now, the colors and the shapes represent the different city streets, and this is where the police officers and the German soldiers are located. So when you draw this card, it's going to say, all enemies move in this direction, either black or right along the roads, or just the soldiers move here, or just the policemen, or the policemen move this way, the soldiers move this way. So they're going to be moving around the board, and as they move through locations, if a police officer moves through a location, the safety level goes down 1. If a soldier moves through a location, the safety level goes down 2. Now, if ever your safety level gets down to 0, you're going to have a raid. Now, if you have a raid, then you're going to, if there's like a person in hiding in that location, there's a number there. You compare it against it. I think you do a roll, and there's you have to beat the number in order to keep that person safe. Otherwise, they're out of the game. But there's also going to be other negative consequences for raids. Typically, morale will go down, and there'll be some other bad things that will happen. So you want to try to avoid the raids as much as you can. After that, you will move the first player marker, and you will begin the new round. So players are going around and around. They are moving. They are attempting to gain items, to move items, to open up certain locations or deliver people to certain locations depending on what the specific conditions of the scenario are. They are working toward those things even as the Dutch policemen and the German soldiers are attempting to thwart them in their schemes. If players collectively can work together in order to meet the scenario requirements, then they win. Dutch resistance. Orange shall overcome. So this is a game that, again, I saw on a lot of Best of 2023 videos, and I was very interested. I was very interested here, first of all, because it's World War II, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. As you know, it's a theme I really enjoy. It's pretty much my career as a historian. So I really just generally like World War II games and World War II themes. And this, again, is fun. And I really like World War II games. And I love war games. Don't get me wrong. I love World War II war games. But I really like smart games set in World War II that are not war games, that are still fun games that really play on the theme and really present a fun game. The game really, and I should point out, there's a lot more going on. I didn't get into all the rules. I'm just giving you the basics here. But one thing too that was notable is the game. Just as soon as I heard about it, as soon as I saw the map, I thought the game looks very reminiscent of Maquis. Now, Maquis is a solitaire game, and it came out a while ago, and it's a game of the French resistance in World War II. You're fulfilling missions. It's a very small game, but it's got a lot of good decisions. It's got a lot of good uh, and fun moments in it. Tells good stories. And I really was a big fan of Maquis. And I'm thinking, wow, if this is just a bigger, deeper kind of Maquis, I'm really going to be on board with this. Well, the game is not just a bigger, deeper Maquis. Now, it is a bigger game, it is a deeper game. And yes, there's a lot that's like Maquis, but the game very much feels like its own game. First of all, addressing that idea of story and telling good stories, you've got those halt cards, which literally tell you stories. And the game, the way it manages those halt cards, so you go through a patrol or a German or Dutch policeman space, and you've got to you hand the card to another player who then reads you the choices for that checkpoint or what have you. It reminded me a lot of Dead of Winter. The game reminds me a lot of Dead of Winter because it has that crossroads system, which I was excited about. And I was hoping we'd see more of the crossroads system in other games, and we never really did. But this feels like a crossroads system here, which is very interesting. And I really, really like that. Great stories, great choices. Sometimes, you're reading it's a cooperative game, right? So you're reading, hoping they're going to choose one thing because you can see the outcomes, and then they choose the other, and like, curses. That was a lot of fun. Really like that quite a bit. So great story. I love that there. And the game is tense. This is again one of those cooperative games where you're spinning the plates and you're trying to keep everything going here. And you're trying to keep your morale up. You're trying to keep your alibi up. You're trying to collect the items you need. But then at the same time, you got to try to keep the safety of those locations at a healthy rate. So there's a lot going on here, and it's fun and it's desperate and it's frustrating at times, but it's really good. It's really fun. Ray and I played this a few times now, and I haven't won it once. We have come close. We've come very close, but we haven't won it yet. I think with some more plays, we'll get that down. I have to say to another game, so I've already compared it to Maquis, I've compared it to Dead of Winter. And of course, the other game I'd compare it to is it does feel a little reminiscent on some level, mostly thematic, of Black Orchestra. Black Orchestra is another great cooperative World War II game. In that game, of course, you're trying to kill Hitler. So it plays mechanically a little bit different, but that idea of resistance, in that case, you're the German resistance. It's just it really reminds me of that on that thematic level too, but also too in the sense of you're going to places to gain items to use in a certain fashion. So all three of these games, Maquis, Dead of Winter, and Black Orchestra, are games that I really really like a lot. And this game it almost seems like it's borrowing from some of the best ideas of those games. But this is very much its own game. I don't know that I have a game on my shelf that is quite like it in these regards. It's got, like I say, pieces of these other things, but as a whole, I don't know that I've got a game that's quite like it. And this game is very, very, very good. It's outstanding, frankly. I think this game is really one of the most fun experiences I've had playing a game. Playing a World War II game that wasn't a war game like this in a long time. I've really enjoyed it. I really think it's a game that sucks you in with the story, and you get a sense of the desperation of those heroes. God love them, who risked everything to thwart the Nazis in World War II. And again, you don't. By no means am I intending to trivialize what they went through, but maybe you do get a slight window into what they went through. And I think maybe that's something the designer wanted to convey, and I think it is an outstanding job. This is a phenomenal game. Of course, my recommendation 100% is buy it. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. I'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history, fun things like that. I'd ask you to please check that out, and please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. I'd also ask you to please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. And if you really do enjoy the content we bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask you to please click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. You know, I once weighed a rainbow. It was pretty light.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I've been dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Oh, south! Tell me we got weapons. Tell me we got weapons.
We got weapons.
1, 2, 3. Detonate. Firing torpedo. Detonating at D6.